Hi, good afternoon. So, in the last class, we had started discussing about the features of, what characterizes a poor family or what characterizes poverty. And we had gone ahead and we had done the first characteristic of poverty, right? Where we said that when we find that there is a large enough family, we notice that in a large enough family, there is going to be more poverty, right? As compared to a smaller family. We also went ahead and we also said that those families which are poor, it is seen in those families that there will be more chances that a woman will be going ahead and will be heading the family, right? And we also said that there is going to be absence of a principal male earner, right? We will not see more male earners in such family. Rather, we would go ahead and we would see that female oriented families will be more in the poor families, right? Now, we want to go ahead and we want to continue today and we want to talk about the second feature, or rather the second characteristic division, and that is on the basis of rural versus urban poverty. Rural and urban poverty. So we want to go ahead and we want to talk about how when we talk in the rural area and the urban area, the poverty differs, right? So if I go ahead and I find out the cost of living, we will see that the cost of living in the urban area is much more than the cost of living in the rural area, right? And at the same time, but we will also see that when we talk about the rural area, right, we see that the ways in which people can go ahead and earn money is also limited. People can only go ahead and earn money based on agricultural sector, right? So the mode of earning money is also limited in the rural area. So on that basis, what we can go ahead and what we can do is the following. So we can create a table kind of thing, right? And we can compare 2 or 3 countries. So I'm taking some countries here. Okay. And I am taking rural population and I am taking rural poor, right? So when we talk about, so what I can do is whenever we are talking about this, we can write things in percentage, right? So out of the total population, how much population is living in the rural area? That is what I'm going ahead and I'm talking about, right? So we are going ahead and we are saying that in India, out of the total population, 77% is lying in the rural. Okay, that's a rural population. And among the rural population, 79% is rural poor. Right? Then we talk about infant mortality rate in the rural region. And we find that that is 105. Whereas if we look at the infant mortality rate in the urban region, that is only 57. Not only, but less as compared to the rural area. If we look at excess, I'm not writing the entire word, but this is excess to save water. Access to safe water. So safe water, 50% of the people have access to safe water in the rural area. Whereas when we talk about access to safe water in the urban area, then that is basically 76%. Right? This is in India. We can take one more country. So suppose we talk about Kenya. 80% of the population lives in the rural area. 96% of people who live in rural area are poor. 59 is the infant mortality rate in rural, 57 in urban. 21% of people in rural area have access to clean drinking water. I think something happened. Give me a minute. Okay. And 61% of the people, they have access to clean drinking water in the urban area. So what we are seeing here, right? I'm just writing 61 here. Right. And I have taken one country from sub-Saharan Africa, which is Kenya. I've taken one country, which is India from Asia. And you can take some countries from Latin America also. Like you can go ahead and you can take one country. Suppose I take one country from Latin America. Let's say I'm going ahead with, suppose, Mexico. Right. So in Mexico also 31% of people live in rural area. Right. Out of that, 37% people are poor. 79 is infant mortality rate in the rural area, 29 in urban area, 51% of people have access to clean drinking water here, and 79 here. So we have given one example of each. What we notice overall is that the rural population in any country is much more poor as compared to the urban population. They have less access to clean drinking water, less access to good health care, right? And we see that they have more chances that they will go ahead and they will fall sick, right? So as compared to the urban population, rural can be more prone to poverty, right? So please write this with me, that as reflected in the table, poverty in rural areas is significantly higher. So especially see Kenya, 96% of people who live in rural area are poor. And it's a very big number. Almost everyone is poor, right? And this is visible even in countries with advances in agriculture. तो इवन दोज कंट्रीज विच हैव एडवांसेस इन एग्रीकल्चर, जो एग्रीकल्चर में अच्छा भी कर रही हैं, उनमें भी ये देखा गया है, इट हैज बीन फाउंड दैट दीज कंट्रीज बेसिकली गो अहेड एंड दे डोंट have good amount of earning in the rural sector. Most of the people in the rural sector are also poor, right? Now what we can go ahead and we can do is we can talk about the third feature, which is assets, right? So I want to go ahead and I want to start with one line here. And the line that I want to focus on, then I will just explain this. Please write, poverty is both a cause and consequence of lack of assets. Poverty is a cause and consequence of lack of assets. माने क्या मतलब है इसका? Since we are poor, right? When a person is poor, the person will not be able to go ahead and buy any asset. ठीक है? So it is a consequence of poverty कि क्योंकि कोई poor है, इसलिए वो asset नहीं खरीद पा रहा है. That's a consequence. But it is also a cause of poverty. Cause क्यों है poverty का? Because every individual who faces poverty, जो उनकी existing assets भी होंगे, they will go ahead and they will sell off those assets, right? To survive, they will have to go ahead and they will have to sell the assets that they earn, that they have, right? So which means that they will not have asset. Poverty is the cause of lack of assets. जो existing assets हैं वो भी लोगों को sell off करने पड़ेंगे. They will have to sell the existing assets. So it is both a cause and a consequence of poverty, right? So what we can therefore say is that it is a two-way thing, right? So please write down condition of poverty leads to sale of assets, right? Thus, cause of lack of assets, right? And then lack of ownership of asset leads to poverty. तो जिनके पास asset नहीं होंगे वो automatically they will be poor, right? Now, when we talk about the rural areas, right? It has been seen that the major asset in the rural area is land. And those people who are poor, right? They lack this asset. That means they are landless. Okay? Even when we have seen that those farmers would have very small piece of land, not very large piece of land, वहां पे भी ये देखा गया है that those people, they are not very rich, right? They are associated with poverty. तो हम कह सकते हैं that the bulk of poverty in rural area is associated with landless farmers. Only as the farm size significantly increases. जैसे जैसे आपका साइज थोड़ा बड़ा होगा फार्म का, तब देखा जाएगा कि हाँ, these people are not poor, right? So it is also associated with owners of small holdings. Only when the land size significantly increases, poverty decreases. Poverty decreases, right? So as the land size significantly increases, poverty decreases. So we can go ahead and we can say that land is an asset. When land holding is increasing, poverty is decreasing. Money, asset and poverty can be negatively related to each other. Asset और poverty का एक negative relationship हो सकता है, that as the amount of assets increase, we are talking about the rural area, as the amount of asset increases, we can go ahead and we can say that there is going to be decline in the amount of poverty, right? Now, another thing which we can go ahead and we can talk about is going to be the human capital. So it's not only a human asset. So it's not only that we are talking about the physical asset, but we are also going ahead and we are also talking about the human asset, right? So you will see that those people who are more educated, that means they have more human asset with themselves, even they will be associated with less amount of poverty because they will be able to go ahead and get good job and earn good money for themselves. So there are not only low levels of physical capital, but also human capital. Since acquiring human capital is nothing but education, requires removing oneself from the labor force for a certain period. ये मैं अभी समझा देती हूँ, just give me a minute. The opportunity cost is high for the already poor. So as I said, poverty is cause and consequence of lack of asset. अब हमारा asset human capital है. तो अगर कम human capital होगा, if you have less human capital, if you have less education, then you will not be getting good job. If you will not get good job, then you will be poor. So यहाँ पे this acts as a cause of poverty. Lack of human capital acts as a cause of poverty. But if you are poor, तो अगर आपको ये ह्यूमन कैपिटल को एक्वायर करना है, इफ यू नीड दिस ह्यूमन कैपिटल, देन यू विल बी गिविंग अप on the labor hours. You will not be able to work because a poor person will start working very soon. So if a poor person wants to go ahead and get some level of education, अगर उनको कुछ पढ़ाई करनी है, तो they will have to give up on the money during that period of time because they will not be working, right? They will have to exit the labor force. And this is associated with very high opportunity cost कि labor force से हट जाओ तो पढ़ाई की cost बहुत ज्यादा है because you are losing the money you could have earned. So it means that you will not be acquiring this human capital. बहुत कम लोग होंगे जो ये पढ़ाई करेंगे. So poverty is acting as a consequence of lack of asset, lack of human capital. That because people are poor, they are not able to acquire the good level of education. Okay? So it has been seen that among people who are poor, illiteracy rates are high, school enrollment beyond primary level is low. So beyond primary level, the school enrollment is low. People are not, they haven't enrolled themselves for education level.